Hi everyone, and welcome back to the very final review of The Prisoner. We have now arrived at the final episode, and if you watch this episode will leave you with the question, what the heck was that all about? So be prepared for absolute weirdness, and I mean weirdness. Okay. I'll try to keep this as brief as I can because it is such a strange episode, this. So here we are, the final one, Fallout. As you know, number 6 has won the Battle of Minds against number 2. He is escorted by the supervisor to a room where his own clothes are, and he's allowed to put on his own clothes. Now, they've gone down quite considerably, going further down into the bowels of the village, and from there he's taken into a cave where there's a lot going on. And the president is there to resolve the question of revolt. And so number 6 is shown to the president, and the president is told that number 6 has survived degree absolute. He has won, and so the president therefore decrees that number 6 is no longer a number. He has won the right to be an individual, and is then shown the throne where he'll be sitting and observing the proceedings. So while that's going on and other things, the room that number 6, number 2 lived in the embryo room, has been slowly brought down to the cave level, and the deceased number 2 is removed from the room because number 2 is coming back to life. But before we reach number 2, there's some odd things that go on. Now, one of these is the president is being addressed by, well, let's be honest, it's a rocket. Rocket, missile, call it what you like, and it's got 1 written on it. So that happens every so often. And basically what happens is it's like a courtroom, and the first person to be presented before the court is number 48, who runs a complete muck. He really does. Runs around the place, causes absolute mayhem and chaos before he's finally cornered. And he's basically found guilty of being a youth, a rebel, and revolts against everything without any due cause. So he's found guilty, and he's then carted off. So that's number 48 dealt with. Now we come to number 2, who is brought back to life, who is cleaned up, and behold, he sees the former number 6 on the throne. He goes up to him, shakes his hand, and tells the butler to follow him, but the butler doesn't. The butler is now loyal to the individual. And so this number 2 now states his case. He was a member of the establishment. He obeyed all the rules. And not surprisingly, that this village found usage for him and abducted him and appointed him number 2. But in his case also, he is guilty of biting the hand that feeds him. And the former number 2, you could say now, is removed as well. And then they come to the individual, the former number 6. And they say his revolt was honest. It was pure. He knows the way. And he's been given this choice: freedom or lead them. He's given a bag of petty cash, his passport, all the stuff that, belongs to him is handed back to him. And proceedings carry on, eventually, which lead to the individual going down another level, meeting more of these strange hooded figures, and being escorted by the butler up some stairs in the rocket, where, yes, the individual finally comes face to face with number one. Well, we assume it's number one, because the hooded figure has got one on his cloak. And, well, so the former number 6 comes face to face with a very familiar face. He then chases number 1 up another level in the rocket and seals him in. He then overpowers, with the help of the butler, the cloaked figures, and releases number 2 and number 48. And from there, they overpower the guards with the guns, because they are going to take over. And why this is all going on, yes, the former number 6, the individual, has put the rocket into a countdown mode, which is spotted by the president, and basically all hell breaks loose. There's no other word for it. He's shouting out contact control for orders, and then our individual hero emerges, shooting the guards in the cave. He's followed by the former number 2 and former number 48. Let's say they are former numbers now. And it's a big shootout that takes place, and they basically win. And they then make their way to the room that was brought down to the cave, because it's placed on the back of a trailer. And yeah, the butler basically gets into the cabin of the lorry to drive off. But just before all this happens, chaos breaks out in the village. Evacuate, evacuate, evacuate. Absolute chaos. And we see all these helicopters suddenly appearing from nowhere. Absolute chaos, as I say. It's chaos in the village, it's chaos downstairs. And just before the rocket is launched, obviously, our heroes have made their way into the unit that's on the back of this lorry, and it's driven down a long tunnel by the former butler. And then we just get this shot of the village from above, a circling shot, and something is going on, because it's absolute chaos. People evacuating, helicopters are appearing out of nowhere to get people out. And then, yes, the rocket suddenly appears behind the green dome. Yep, it's the rocket that was meant to have the former number 2, former number 6, and former number 48 inside. Don't ask me. But they were scheduled to be put in it. So, yes, so obviously I can imagine that did a bit of damage to the village, lifting off. How much? Don't ask. I haven't got a clue. But Rover is destroyed. Yep, Rover is destroyed by the takeoff. You see Rover just shrink down into nothing. And so our heroes are on the A20, 27 miles from London. And what basically happens is a bit of a funny routine. And then the former number 48 is released. He just jumps off. So he's on his merry way. He keeps crossing the road backwards and forwards. It's a dual carriageway. It's like because he can't really make his mind up which direction he wants to go in. So anyway, he's a free man now. So the butler, with our former number 6 and former number 2, have arrived in London. Former number 2 heads off to Westminster, and former number 6 with the butler heads off to, well, his home. Yes, and he's there back home, and the butler offers him to his car, which obviously our hero, the individual, gets in, and then he just drives off in his car. But note some oddity. When the butler enters our hero's house, there's a familiar sound to the door. Very familiar sound. Interesting. And on that note, my final thoughts. Right, there you go, folks. That's it. The very final episode of The Prisoner. Yeah. Before I come to my review, at the start of this particular episode, the filming location is given away. And yes, the village does exist. It's a real place, Portmeirion in North Wales, and it's still there today as a holiday resort, and you can go and visit it, obviously. Yeah, so it's a real place. So if you ever want to visit it, there's all the details for you on the screen. Right, so let's push on to my review. Well, I know that Patrick McGoohan wrote this story overnight, and that shows me one thing: it was rushed. What pressure he was under to get this written quickly, I don't know. I'm not familiar of the behind the scenes, in the terms of the episode 16 and 17, what was going on. I've got no idea. So, yeah, there you go. Patrick McGoohan has never stated anything outright. I think he's basically saying to people, you watch it and you get from it whatever you get from it. Which is a bit vague, I must admit. Fallout is definitely a very peculiar episode. I do think there are elements in this episode that give us some sort of understanding, but it's all intertwined with all this weirdness and madness, and you got to watch it quite a few times. But I'm still of the opinion episode 16 would have been the appropriate episode to end the entire series on. It was a great episode 16, and it would have gone out on a much higher note. Unfortunately, it didn't. We got Fallout, and the result of this was indeed Fallout for Patrick McGoohan, because there was a bit of a backlash, and he emigrated to America. Wow. Yeah. What can I say? Yeah, it's all right, but it's all over the place. I have very mixed feelings about this particular episode, ending it there. I've got really nothing more to say. Otherwise, I'm just going to be droning on. So, what's coming up is a wrap-up video of The Prisoner, my final thoughts. That'll be coming in due course. So there you go, folks. That was it. That's Fallout. And on that note, have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you on the very final one soon. Be seeing you.